Hey everybody, welcome to a top 5 here on the Jurassic Park podcast. We're doing an interesting thing here. If you guys are listening to the podcast, you might not be seeing this, but go over to YouTube. We actually have some video of this recording. It's kind of a big test. We don't know if it's going to work too well, but I'm definitely down for it. But today we have a top 5 for you guys. A top 5. We wanted to keep things positive and enthusiastic and talk about some of our top 5 favorite moments from the series across all kinds of different mediums, if possible. There's a lot of things, and I didn't want to just seclude it to just the films, so kind of wanted to open it up just in case we had anything from books, from any other, stuff out there. And today, of course, we have, if you're watching the video, you can see him right there. It's Aaron Beyer is here for the top 5. We're going to be doing this together. Hey, guys. How you doing, man? You staying healthy?
I'm staying healthy, locked in my apartment in Toronto, trying to hopefully get groceries at some point.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
It is what it is, right?
We're all in the same boat. So let's keep things fun here. So we're going to go down a list of top 5 moments. Like I said, it's not in any kind of particular order or anything like that. I attempted to look at it what's my number 1? But then I'm like, forget it. I don't really want to single something out. They're all great moments. They're all fun things. So why don't you start off with just your 5th pick or whatever pick you want, one of them.
I mean, I can't even say these are my top 5 moments. These are 5 things that stick out to me.
Sure, yeah, and that's fair too.
This week. So yeah, I'll start.
Well, here's the thing. Also, we've probably already done this before. I just forget. So we're doing it again. There's more moments to talk about. To be honest, last time we did this, maybe there wasn't a Fallen Kingdom or some other mediums.
Well, I guess some bad news. I don't think Fallen Kingdom falls on any of my top moments. So
okay, all right.
It's a fine movie. Except for the credit I have at the end. But anyway, one of my top moments in the entire franchise has got to be when Grant and Ellie. Well, I mean, Malcolm's there, but this scene is really about Grant and Ellie, right?
Yeah.
Them seeing the Brachiosaur for the very first time. I feel like entering into this list, that's a big moment. And I think that might be my biggest moment that I'm going to bring tonight. And what I love about that scene is that you have to kind of be in the mindset of 1993 when you think about how big of a moment that really is. The scene it's not only big for the characters, but it's big for the audience. So thinking about it in that way, it's a little bit kind of meta. It's big for the characters because you're talking about Alan Grant and Ellie Sattler. These are 2 people that, obviously have a passion for paleontology and paleobotany and life from far distant passes, right? And they're seeing this thing that they love and they obsess of, and they think about every day, they work with every day, and they're seeing it in the most tangible way possible, brought right up to them. It's not a small compy, it's not a medium-sized dinosaur. It is one of the biggest animals to ever roam the planet. They're not seeing one, they're seeing 3 or 4. They're seeing them moving with other dinosaurs. They're seeing, it's being transported millions of years ago into the past, right? And so for them, as characters, right, we're kind of brought in for the ride. But for me as a 7-year-old, when I first saw that was, I mean, I aspire to be a CG artist on that level, right? And I do work in movies, but I don't do that kind of art. And for me as a 7-year-old, that blew my mind in a way that I can't even verbally express.
Yeah.
Just opened up this idea of wait, I know that's not real, but it's real. I don't understand, right? And I think kids growing up today, they've seen, they see the Avengers and they see, Star Wars, and even Star Wars back then, the Star Wars that we had was puppet Star Wars, right? And there's nothing wrong with that, of course. Those are classic movies, but this was something on a whole different level. For me as a kid, that just inspired me to chase down the career that I have now.
Yeah. And it's it had to work. at that moment, that was the selling point. Like we saw some glimpses of, the raptor in the beginning of the movie, but like
Right.
if that moment doesn't work, this movie doesn't work. And it worked, for you, it worked for the characters in the movie, it worked for everybody, and it still works. It's still, you look at it today and you're like, oh, it's a little, it's not as great as maybe it could be, but it's still impactful to you, and you remember that moment as a kid and all that, and it's beautiful. I
Yeah,
love
I
it.
mean, look, today the CG doesn't really hold up. I mean, there are people that will say like, "Oh, it's the best the CG's ever been." It's
Yeah,
really
yeah.
not. Like, I mean, the Brachiosaur is definitely like a single bump map, like rolling across its skin. Like, that's not really standard today. Yeah, exactly, right? Like,
I mean, it
but
just, yeah, it looks a little like, I don't know what it is, just like rubbery kind of in a weird way, and like not in a good way. But it's not like I can look at the one in Fallen Kingdom and say like, wow, that one looks so much better. But I don't know. It's still a beautiful shot no matter what.
I mean, it's a beautiful shot. The anticipation
Hmm.
building up to that shot, where like Ellie is so engrossed in this leaf, and like Alan is like, just there's the gif, right? That
Yeah.
famous gif of him like getting up out of the car,
Yes.
ripping off his sunglasses, like cannot believe his eyes. Like Sam Neill nails that performance in that scene.
Yeah.
And as an audience member, like you're there with him because I mean, you know what he's looking at, because as the audience member, going in what you're going to, like, it's a dinosaur movie,
Hmm.
but you're kind of not quite there yet with like, well, what's it going to look like? I mean, at least me as a 7-year-old who didn't see any advertisements or anything, like, I was like, I know it's going to be a dinosaur, but like, what is it going to look like? What is it going to be? I didn't know it was going to be a brachiosaur when I first saw it.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
it was just super exciting. And then, he grabs her head and turns her head, and she has the same exact reaction, like standing up, just mouth,
Yeah.
just jaw dropped. It's so good. It's so powerful. And the entire franchise works, I think, because of that scene.
Hmm.
They've
Yeah.
tried replicating it. Every movie kind of has that, but that very first one is by far the best.
Yeah, yeah. It's impossible to live up to, I think, at this point. But yeah, I think this none of this would be possible. We wouldn't be sitting here talking about this if that moment didn't work. So perfect. I love it.
Yeah, it's great.
Um, Let me see. Where do I want to go with my first pick? Um, all right, so I'm gonna go to the next movie, and it's not as like I feel like any of my picks are not like as profound as that moment is.
Well,
Really.
so that's the first one on my like piece of paper here, and like
Yeah.
I'm like, well, now everything's just disappointing after
I
that.
know,
But
I know, right? Yeah. It's just that was so profound and like so many like life lessons and just being so impactful as a child. I won't that none of this is really like on that level, but as far as like one of my favorite moments, which I've probably talked about a lot here, is Malcolm's journey, like that whole the musical motion, what do you call it? I don't know, but
like
the
the
way
music cues and stuff,
the
yeah, it's
musical
so
cue,
good.
yeah, the way like it starts in that moment with Kelly, entering the RV and then like checking out that map, and then cut to that really wide shot like from the sky of the boat just kind of leaving the trail in the ocean, and just like the vibe that music gives you, and those like subtle like booms every so often as like the horns are playing and stuff. It's so epic. And then like you get this funny banter like in the middle of all of this seriousness. You get like Eddie
Right.
and Malcolm in there. It's just like it's hilarious the way they interact with each other. And then of course it like peaks with this amazing crescendo of like the music, hits level 10, and there's just all kinds of percussion and higher pitched instruments and stuff like that, and you see the vehicles, which as a kid, as what was I, like 12 years old or something, that is just the coolest thing, is seeing that RV and those two Mercedes just strolling down the island. It's just so awesome, and it's one of those moments like there's no dinosaurs involved in that moment. There's nothing like overtly amazing about that moment. It's just something that is really impactful to me, and it's the tone. That Lost World tone fits perfectly. How like kind of grim things are, but how like I don't know, just the way the vibe looks in that movie, the
Well, it's
comedic moments.
dangerous.
It's dangerous, and then the added element of the music and the vehicles. They just all of that coming together in that big crescendo at the end of it is just it's awesome. It's so cool, and as a kid, that RV there was really nothing cooler than that.
The RV is so incredibly cool. Like
Hmm.
it when the movie came out, like a lot of younger fans might not realize, but the RV toy by Kenner was not out when the movie came out. That came out as like a wave like 2 or a wave 3 thing.
Hmm.
And so being in the theater seeing that, I was like, the Explorer and the Jeep from the first Kenner line, those were fine. Well, I shouldn't say fine, they were awesome.
Okay.
But but to be like looking at the movie and like seeing that trailer, and you're like,
Uh-huh.
wait, where's that toy?
Yeah.
Where is it? Why don't I have this toy? Like, why can't I get this toy? It was absolutely
Yeah.
phenomenal, and like just big and beefy, and like if you've read the book, that like it's supposed to have like electric wires like wrapped around it,
Uh-huh.
for so there's like protection from dinosaurs and stuff. And yeah, that scene in the movie where they're driving through, like it kind of plays off like a car commercial for Mercedes, but it really
Every
is
movie
like,
has it. Yeah.
I mean, every movie has it, but like it really is dangerous at that time. They're
Mhm.
in a field where anything can approach them at that point. Like you go into
Yeah.
that movie and with Hammond explaining, like, no, the dinosaurs are not in cages this time. No
Mhm.
fences this time.
Yeah.
Just these cars. That is it. That's all that is protecting our characters. It's so
Mhm.
cool.
Yeah, and I think it's the only moment that we actually see that vehicle in motion, like that RV in motion, outside of falling off of a cliff.
Right.
So that's crazy that we only get that one moment, right? Am I wrong in thinking that? I think that's it, because after
No,
that it
I
just
think you're
parks
totally
on the
right. Yeah.
cliff. Why would they park right there? I don't know, but they they park it right next to a cliff. Um, but yeah, I just love that moment. I love the vibe of those vehicles. How like like you were mentioning the other vehicles from the other movies, like they're so bright and so optimistic because of that park and everything. And then this one, it's all about survival and blending in, and the camo and all that. It just looks so tough and so cool. Something awesome about those vehicles.
It looks like it's designed to like weather the elements. Like I remember
Hmm.
as a kid when I would play, like making up my own stories, the trailer was it was designed to be like when I was playing as a kid. I never really played. We played Lost World like every once in a while, but for the most
Hmm.
part, we still kind of played like the Jurassic Park concept. And what that was for us, that was like a go into the park at night kind of thing. And like we would have the
Hmm.
trailer be like you go in the trailer and you go like in a paddock
Yeah.
and you like sleep in the trailer with animals around you, right?
Yeah.
Um, like a giant gyrosphere or something. And because it was this big, bulky, boxy thing that looked like it
Yeah.
was designed to take a beating, it was like the perfect vehicle for that.
Hmm. Yeah.
So yeah, that's a great moment, man.
That movie is just it's incredible, and the vibe of that movie, which I actually in the last episode I talked about my favorite thing, which was just the vibe of the Lost World, the marketing materials, like the style guide that they used for that movie, like
Hmm.
everything about it
Yeah.
was just so iconic to me, and that's something that has meant so much to me. So this movie is awesome, and that's one of those moments that definitely helps to set the tone as well. So that's
Yeah,
one of
now
my
I'm trying to
picks.
think, like, because I did hear the last podcast we were saying like
Hmm.
everything about the marketing of the Lost World. Do you think was Jurassic Park marketed as big, or is it just because we were older and knew what Jurassic Park was that we were paying attention, or do you think they like doubled down on the marketing for Lost World? I feel like it's got to
Yeah.
be the second, right? They doubled down on it.
I think they double down. I mean, yeah, it's one of those things where I wasn't really paying attention to that stuff back then. Um, and I mean, as far as the materials go, yes, we have like the awesome, the tree line with the red and the black and all that stuff, and it's very subtle. But everything about the Lost World, there's nothing very subtle about the marketing for the Lost World. It's like either this etched rock work, this very cool stuff, or this like bombastic greens with like these like danger signs and all this crazy stuff on it. It's just there's something really unique about that marketing, what they did. I feel like they must have exploded the budget there. And but even like I talked about on the episode with Fallen Kingdom has like the biggest marketing behind any movie I've almost ever seen. And it didn't really touch the likes of what The Lost World did in terms of style. So that's what
Sure.
I want.
Yeah,
I
that
want to
makes
see
sense.
more of that going forward. Is that style that when you look back, you can think, "Wow, that feels Lost World." Everything about that feels like The Lost World. I'm not sure I've gotten that out of Jurassic Park 3, Jurassic World, or Fallen Kingdom so far.
I mean, the closest we've gotten to like packaging has probably been like the Dino Rival stuff that very
Hmm.
much mimics the
Oh yeah, yeah,
Jurassic Park
for sure.
to me. But like
Hmm.
Mattel didn't, or not Mattel, um,
Hasbro.
Hasbro didn't come close. Like what was the Jurassic World white and
I
blue and
I
red?
don't
Like it
know,
was
man.
so weird.
I
Like
don't know. I don't know
so
what
I
that was.
like I don't know what about those colors said dinosaur. Like green to me says jungle dinosaur.
Yeah.
Red says lava dinosaur. Red and orange lava dinosaur.
Like
Like
I know this probably won't show up, but this book here is just it is showing up fine. This book is everything. Like this describes it all perfectly. It's so good. Just that whole vibe.
yeah, that's
But
awesome, man.
yeah, so that's one of mine. What do you want to move on to one of yours?
Well, yeah, I mean, I'll bounce, and this can be really quick. We don't have to really like go on this because, like, honestly, it's like a line from the book. Um, and there's something from the original book, Jurassic Park, that Crichton did that I thought was cool. Um, I understand why they didn't do this in the movie, but in
Hmm.
the book, the dinosaur eggs are made of like a clear plastic, and there was like a lot of different reasonings for it, right? Obviously so they could like see inside to make sure that the development was looking like the way they wanted it to look,
Hmm.
to make sure, to kind of obviously tell what species of dinosaur it was while it was like in the incubators and everything. And I get that Jurassic Park was trying to make them, like the movie was trying to make them feel more natural and
Yeah.
like it brought dinosaurs back and now they're living things, but the book makes them feel very much like a product. Um,
Yeah.
and in the book, Crichton has them hatching out of like a clear plastic breakaway egg. And I went to Jurassic Wiki to like kind of confirm this because I'm sometimes a little fuzzy like with the books. I feel like I make some stuff up in my head.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, but so from Jurassic Wiki, in the book, Henry Wu claims that egg yolk is nothing but a growth medium that can be created in a laboratory. Fine, whatever. That's very cold and very like science
Hmm.
fiction, right? Um, InGen uses artificial egg product by Millpore Plastic products to manufacture their dinosaur eggs. The
Hmm.
artificial yolks are then inserted via syringe. It's really cold. It's really sci-fi. It's really like kind of
Yeah.
dark. And I get why Spielberg didn't go that route. And I think like the closest thing we've actually gotten was with Trevorrow putting like the barcodes on the
Uh
eggs. I
huh.
thought that was kind of a cool
Sure.
little
Yeah.
thing. But yeah, I don't know. I just that's always stuck out in my head as something like drastically different from book to movie that I'd like to see that maybe like in the next installment of the
Hmm.
movies, like whoever these new scientists are. Um, I shouldn't even say that, with just whatever Wu is doing.
Yeah.
Now in this new lab, maybe they move over to this clear plastic. That'd be kind of cool to see.
That
We sort of saw something like it in Jurassic Park 3, but I don't think it was nearly as cool as the book.
Sure. Yeah, yeah. I guess Jurassic Park 3 definitely took that like sci-fi vibe with the glass containers and stuff like that. You see
Right.
the embryos hatch or not hatching, but just like stuck in there. But yeah, it has that like overtly sci-fi vibe where you any movie or something where you see like clones being made or like just loads of like whatever it is. I don't know
Right.
particularly if these instances actually show this, but like Attack of the Clones or The Island or even
Well,
something
the
like
Matrix, like the
Westworld.
Matrix is a
And
perfect
sure,
example.
yeah, there's always these moments where in this sci-fi thing that the person or whatever it is like in some sort of weird. Oh, even Roswell. I've been watching Roswell, like the new reboot of that on the CW, and
Sure.
they have these like eggs that they're in, and it's weird, and that's exactly what that is. It's like this like weird material that you use to build and to create these things, and that is something that you're right. It doesn't necessarily lend itself to the movie version, but today, by today's standards, I could definitely see that happening because, because of more maybe science fiction, interpretations in the Jurassic World saga and stuff like that, and certainly moving forward with, like you said, whatever Doctor Wu could be doing, or potentially like another company or something like that. I think it could be really interesting to see that potentially used in the future. I like
Well,
that
it's
idea.
the idea of like these clear plastic eggs to me
Mm-hmm.
said like it feels more like villainous. And since the
Mm-hmm.
end of Fallen Kingdom, we know that like the dinosaurs that are out there are either free or they're in the hands of villains at this point.
Yeah.
So it would be kind
Yeah.
of cool to see that dichotomy or like that, that juxtaposition, next to the, old man Hammond wanting to create beautiful creature,
Mm-hmm.
kind of
Yeah.
thing. So I don't know. Hopefully we see it someday in the future. I don't know.
Yeah, and talking about the translation to the film too, I don't know. That moment would have been really weird if it was some sort of plastic egg and not the real egg that the raptor pops out of. Like that is such and also like an impactful moment as well. And
Yeah,
it's something
totally.
that
Yeah.
is it feels real. It feels natural, and like you're saying, it feels good because it's a real egg. You see the raptor come out. It doesn't feel like some sort of weird freak of nature kind of creation like maybe the Indominus does in a way. It doesn't really feel like that. But it also makes me think about weirdly like Maisie. Like how did that happen? Now was something like that utilized for Maisie and her creation? I mean, that's
You
kind of a weird question, but like I
you
think
know my dark you know my dark
I
thoughts
know.
on Maisie and
Hmm.
Lockwood and how like the Maisie we see on screen is not Maisie 1.0.
No.
Like there's a bunch of
Uh,
failed
yeah,
experiments, like a
yeah,
la like is that Alien 3 with like the failed Ridley experiment or whatever. Like
yeah.
I feel like there's a dark history that is definitely
Hmm.
not being talked about, and I honestly don't even know if that if you really want to go dive into it, it's definitely not for kids.
Mm-mm.
And these movies are generally for families, and you know yeah, exactly. Like are there like JP3 level test tubes
Oof.
somewhere? Like, oh, it's just so
It's gotta
weird
be,
and dark,
yeah.
I don't like
It's
it.
so strange, but yeah, I could see them maybe touching on it somehow, but you're right, it is very dark and it's not necessarily for kids. But with the way movies like this, they're taking these movies that were once like kid centric kind of in a way and making them slightly more adult. Like same way with like the latest Star Wars trilogy kind of did the same thing in terms of like making things a little bit more adult centric in
Well,
certain elements.
Battle at Big
Um,
Rock was like the scariest it's
mm,
been in a long time.
yeah, yeah,
So I mean, we're
yeah.
obvious, yeah, we're kind of going down that rabbit hole a little bit, which is
Hmm.
awesome.
Yeah, yeah, and I like how those eggs. That just feels like so Michael Crichton. Everything about that version feels like Michael Crichton. So that's a cool thing that like I don't feel like many people ever talk about that little part of the movie or the book.
Well,
So that
it's
that
like I
is
said,
one
it's
of those
just a
things
little
you could
blurb,
translate well. Yeah, yeah. Good pick. Good pick.
All right, what else
Um,
you got?
all right, let's see here. All right, I'm gonna go with this one here. So I know you said that you may not have anything from Fallen Kingdom on your list. But I'm gonna
I
I'm gonna
mean,
go ahead.
wow me, man. Like, bring it on. Like,
You're
maybe you
gonna
change my mind. I don't know.
No, I'm not gonna change your mind. You're probably gonna hate my pick here, but um, I this is one of those things. Again, it's kind of like a hybrid moment for me, and it kind of it capitalizes on many different things. So it's the tail end of the auction sequence, when Stiggy is there and kind of rampaging through the auction room, and I just love that moment so much. Um, this movie is very divisive, I think, for the community. Some people side with the volcano. Some people side with the mansion aspect. Some people don't like either. But I love both. And that mansion sequence, I love the horror vibes that they brought out with that. And sure, it's not straight like slasher movie or straight like Wolfman kind of horror or Dracula or something like that. Um, but I do love that moment in particular because Michael Giacchino. I don't know why, but a lot of my stuff centers around the music. Michael
Well,
Giacchino.
yeah, okay. I won't even interrupt you because I can go on forever about that.
Sure, yeah. It's impactful and it makes a big difference. All the music in these moments, and actually not it doesn't make a difference at all in one moment. But in this moment in particular, it really focuses in on that like Psycho score, from like the movie Psycho, and
Sure,
it
yeah.
literally sounds just like that. I love like the stabby nature of that score, and seeing Stiggy kind of just rampage, like I said, through that auction room. And literally, it's pretty. And we were talking about like how this is, a kid's series at heart, but this moment is not necessarily a kid's movie whatsoever. I mean, they market this creature Stiggy as like the next Blue, or like the next character. It's got a name. There's tons of plushes, there's toys, there's all kinds of posters and stuff for Stiggy. But this thing is literally stabbing people in the stomach throughout this room and just throwing them across the room. It's so violent. It's not necessarily gory, but it's very violent, and you can hear that stabbing. And that's why that Psycho score works so well in that moment, that, Psycho-esque score. And on top of that, hold on, I'm not done. There's multiple layers to this scene that I like to interpret. So you also have like this Indiana Jones / Jason Bourne, James Bond, whatever you want to, Ethan Hunt kind of moment here for Owen. And this is all the same scene. So, you've got Stiggy stabbing people. You've got Owen just getting beat up, but also beating everybody to a pulp. And just like this one moment specifically where, he's like picking up a chair, he's hitting some guy, he's punching another guy, he's kicking he's like literally just running down the line, taking out dudes left and right. And I love that moment. It reminds me a lot of Indiana Jones to me, and how he makes it up as he goes along, and just kind of, bumbles along and just hits whatever he can, just throws a random, arm and just punches some dude and knocks him out. It's just like not very plausible whatsoever, but I love how much action there is in that moment, how fun that it literally makes me giddy, like just talking about it and thinking about that moment. And when I watch it, I'm like, oh, this is so awesome. Like everything is happening. And then on top of that, you also have that suspense of like the lever being pulled and then pushed back and pulled, and not knowing what's going to happen with the Indoraptor that's in that cage. Are they going to send it out? Are they going to keep it? Is it kind of going back and forth, this push and pull? And I love that suspense of that moment of like, what's going to happen next? So
what's great about this scene, like this is one of the only scenes in the last like half of the movie that I actually love. Like so I love the very first half of the movie up until they leave the island. Like I'm totally on board. I totally dig it. It's got that Lost World vibe that I was hoping for. What I don't like about the last half is like the monster in the hallway. Okay. Like I feel like a lot of the last half of that movie is kind of like they're running through the mansion in The Shining, and there just happens to be a dinosaur. Shining, so. Yeah, I know, I do too, but it just felt weird. I don't know. But,
sure. So it's definitely a different style. Yeah. Definitely
a different style, which we need injected into the Jurassic Park franchise, right? You're talking about movie 5. Like they had to do something different.
Yeah.
For me, it didn't hit it 100%. I'd say it hit like 70% for me, right? But the scene is great because first off, it's lit beautifully. Like the light, the God rays like coming through like the fog and like shining into the bars of the Indoraptor's cage. It's absolutely amazing. And then I've said it, I think, here on the podcast before, but like Owen Grady is he's what we as like the millennial generation look at Alan Grant as, like with like rose-colored glasses. And Alan Grant was not the beat him up, punch him down hero that we like all like seem to like have in our heads that he was. Yeah. He was very much like, I don't like kids and I'm gonna run from everything. He just happened to be the guy with the cool Indiana Jones hat, right? So yeah. Owen Grady is kind of like the mix of Alan Grant, and he's like a mix of Alan Grant, not Roland Tembo. Oh my gosh, why am I blanking on his name? Robert Muldoon. Okay. And he's got like the snark of like Ian Malcolm. And this scene where he's like punching and there's dinosaurs going like running around. The Indoraptor is like in the cage, like turning around, like following him like a tracking dog. And it's like everything that my 7-year-old brain like could process. And because this sequence is really kind of the raptor motorcycle sequence of this movie, right? And it's like the 7-year-old in me is like my mind is like melting on the inside. I can't process. Oh my gosh, there's dinosaurs and there's guys punching each other and there's people running and there's there's this ferocious one in this cage, and oh man, it was such a crazy scene. It was so cool. But Sticky, I will admit, was like, or I'll agree, Stiggy was like marketed weird. He was like their version of like Baby Groot. It was like marketing was like, hey, we want this to be Baby Groot, and Bayona and Trevorrow were like, yeah, but he's not Baby Groot. He's gonna
Yeah.
headbutt some people.
Yeah, I guess like they really tried with Stiggy to get that to be a thing, but no, I don't think kids really latched on to it that much. I don't know why, but
Because he wasn't
um
called Stiggy in the movie.
sure,
Like
yeah. There
that's
was no
why. Like
exactly, yeah. Yeah, you're probably right there. But yeah, I love what you said about the 7-year-old version of you and kind of like that hybrid of Alan Grant and the other characters. It is that, and I think it's because of the toys. We had the Alan Grant with like some sort of weird like almost spacesuit looking stuff, like on him, like that. You remember that
oh
gray
yeah, yeah,
one
yeah, yeah.
with like the arm whatever it was. I don't even know what that was, to be honest. And like that version or any of the versions, like you just utilize them in different ways because they're toys, and it wasn't necessarily the character that was on the screen. What fun is that to play around with a toy? Like, so that was the guy. It was like him and Malcolm or whoever else were the ones like throwing punches or whatever. So that's just what these movies are, and that's why I enjoy these movies so much, is because like sometimes we get very cynical with movies today and we want them to be
Right.
a certain way and all that, but like these are the movies that we created, when we were playing with our toys. Everything about them was, especially from my mind, like a volcano going off and like saving dinosaurs, trying to
Yes,
capture them
totally.
to bring them somewhere else. Like that was literally like what I did as a kid. And that's why I connect so well with these movies, I think, just because that's what I wanted and that's what I created. So this moment in particular is kind of like the cultivation of all of those things like kind of put together. So that's why I love it
Well,
so much.
I've talked with you. Like I left Jurassic World, the movie 4. I left
Mhm.
Jurassic World like hating it. I was like, no, I don't like this. This isn't Jurassic Park. Like, it's
Uh-huh.
so weird. Why is it weird? And it wasn't until like I had like the weekend to kind of think about it, and like as soon as it clicked that no, you're right. This isn't Jurassic Park. Like, I'm telling myself this, like, this isn't Jurassic Park. They're not trying to do that.
Mhm.
They're doing what every 7-year-old growing, they're doing what we all fantasized that Jurassic Park was with
Mhm.
those toys. Like, Jurassic Park is fantastic. It's easily it's definitely my favorite movie of all time. It's my favorite in the franchise. But Jurassic World is not that, and that's okay. Like, it's okay to not be the original, right?
Sure. Yeah.
Um, and so the more that I approach Jurassic World, this new trilogy, as like Trevorrow is telling the stories that I could only dream of as a kid, like I get much more on board with it.
Yeah.
So like I said, like the end of Fallen Kingdom isn't really my favorite, but it's definitely like a story that I probably would have told as a kid, like playing with
Mhm.
those toys. So, you know, um, I mean, there's really nothing more to say. It's just
No,
different,
it's
and I live
exactly what it
for
is.
its
Yeah.
differences.
Yeah. So that's, oh my God, what we've only done 2 picks each.
Yeah,
Right? Is that what we've done?
you said this would be a short
I,
one.
I was like, we could do this probably in like 30 minutes, but we just ramble.
It's whatever. You know
Yeah.
who I feel really bad for in all of this? I feel really bad for Vince Vaughn, because I think Vince Vaughn was meant to be this character, and
I could see that.
I don't know if his like lines got just cut. I don't know if like sequences, like, because I know he was supposed to be part of like the hang gliding sequence or the motorcycle sequence in
Uh-huh.
um the worker village. So it just feels like all the big action sequences that would feature a character like Nick Van Owen got cut, and like Chris Pratt is in here like taking up all the extra leftovers and stuff like
Yeah.
that. But
Yeah.
yeah, why is Vince Vaughn not in these new movies? Bring him back.
I don't know. I mean, he's looking pretty good. I saw him recently in like Curb Your Enthusiasm. He seems fine. Like he seems all good to go. Like get him in these movies. I don't know why he's not approached to come back. It's
They're
a
just
bummer.
waiting. They're waiting. He's going to be like, well, is he really a big tease at this point? Like, would people even remember, like non-fans, would they even
No.
remember that he was in
No,
the second
because
movie?
if you traverse Twitter at all or any kind of social media, you'll see people are like, "Oh my God, he was in this movie," or "That person was in this movie," and it's always like him. It's always Samuel L. Jackson. It's like those characters that people that don't
Yeah.
realize they were even in the movie. So
No,
yeah,
he was designed to be like the young hot guy, like the young hot action guy. That's what That's what his role was in the
Yeah.
Lost World. And he somehow got like shifted over to like, I'm just a photographer here for the ride.
Yeah, I mean, he's the guy who brings like, the things to like get the locks open. It's like he's the contingency plan there. He's like the, plan B or whatever. So it's up to him to like take down the crew, and it's just like all he does is just unlock some stuff. Like,
He
you
unlocks
know?
cages. He makes a call, all right?
Okay, yeah, he did. He did. He brushed away some like, leaves and some, vines and stuff, I guess. Use those muscles.
Yeah. It was I feel really bad for him in that movie because I definitely feel like he was supposed to be that character. I think I've seen interviews where they like confirm he was meant to be that character, and it just didn't happen. And now, Owen Grady, like I said, is kind of the best of he's like the best part of all the characters combined
Hmm.
to make like one superhero character, right? Which I
Sure.
know
Yeah.
people hate the superhero aspect of these movies, but
What are you gonna do?
that's where we're at.
Yeah. All right. So let's take a third pick here. What are you gonna go with?
Let's see. All right. I'm gonna go with the Indominus Rex in the garage in Jurassic
Okay.
World.
All right.
I don't have too much to say about this, except for like my notes on this are basically this scene is as Jurassic as the new movies get. Um, it's scary. It's super plotting, like they're quietly moving through the garage.
Hmm.
This the scaling in that, like, it's people against a Jeep against a dinosaur,
Yeah.
right? And this dinosaur is like slowly trying to find them. They're like hiding on the side, and then to just like throw it into 7-year-old brain melting overdrive. I'm going to keep going back to that. They throw in a Jeep from Jurassic Park that's like, and they're in the garage. Like
Yeah.
the garage has only ever been talked about like in the book. And now we're in a garage.
Yeah.
We're seeing all these old tools. We're seeing where like employees might have worked on these vehicles.
Hmm.
Um, and it's just like all of that combined going into that movie the very first time, like I couldn't handle that scene. I was so excited. It was so cool.
Yeah.
To see all of that. And aside from Battle at Big Rock, like I said, I think this is the most Jurassic that these movies have been in the new franchise.
Yeah, I can agree with it. I think that's a pretty good pick too. I like, the tension in that moment and just like the iconography of like, first off that whole visitor center scene, but like moving into that and seeing like the goggles and seeing the old Jeep. It's just like it's a very cool moment. I think it's like, and I've talked about this with you a bunch of times, is like seeing things we never saw before, whether it's
Yes,
like certain
100%.
sections of the old island or even the new island, like just seeing moments or places that we never got to explore, and I like that a lot. I really like expanding the world that way. And it's not really all that impactful of like a thing is just seeing a garage, but like for diehard fans that like want to see other things that explored, that is pretty awesome.
I mean, like gas stations, we won't go too much, but like gas
Well,
stations and
maybe we'll
garages
get
and
there.
like,
Yeah.
are we going there?
we might go there. I don't know. We'll see.
I mean, we can go there if you want, because that's really all I have to say about this entire
Yeah.
sequence. Like, I absolutely love it. It's one of those scenes like I
Sure.
forget that it's in this movie all the time, but
Hmm.
every time it comes up, I'm like, oh man, yeah, this is like the best part of this movie.
That
Um,
is pretty good.
yeah,
Um,
so that's all I have to say about it.
all right. Well, I'll give you a short one as well. Kind of, capitalizing on that moment as well is actually in Jurassic World. I'll stick with the same movie. That moment, when the kids got to the island, they're in the hotel room, and I can't help but put this on my list because, um, when those doors open, I don't want to wait anymore. Little Gray says as
Yes,
he bursts through the door, like that moment, seeing this park and everything fully realized, is that like childhood dream come true. Is seeing, like we were saying, you just mentioned a garage. Like how cool is a garage? But like we get to see small glimpses, which is somewhat of a bummer. Like there is a little like bummer layer is the fact that this camera just zooms over everything and you don't really get to explore that park as much as I'd like. But in this one of these moments that you do get to at least see like what else is out there. You see hotels, you see like water parks, you see like all kinds of stuff on the horizon, like just this widespread, resort. It's just really awesome to see that all, just kind of happening very, very quickly. And just the excitement of that moment. Like, you are literally that kid in that same moment. Like, you don't want to wait anymore. Just show me the park. I've seen certain aspects from the monorail to like the dock and stuff, but like, I want to see what this real park is. And that moment is really, really awesome. The music is swelling and it's just really exciting, I think.
Yeah, the moment, I mean, in that moment, right, we are gray, right? Like the line, I don't want to wait anymore. Like if they would have spent an hour setting up Jurassic World, right, as a 30-some-year-old fan when that movie came out, it literally is like, I don't want to wait anymore. Just show me something. I'm so excited at this point. Like, you showed me the dumb CG bird at the beginning of the movie. I've already forgotten about it. Let's go to Jurassic World, right? Like,
Yeah.
and like, yeah, exactly. In that moment, he's us, right? And he is, I don't want to wait anymore. And then he flies open the doors, and there it is, right? In like all of its glory. And then what's cool is that Trevorrow does is like, then all of a sudden we're Lowry, right? It's like, hey, this is great. Don't mess this up. Please don't screw this up. Please don't make this bad. Please don't make bad decisions. I love that he was able to take the fandom and he was able to split them into two characters, right? I thought it was awesome. I love that sequence. Like, and like there's no dinosaurs in that sequence. I mean,
why do I keep picking moments without dinosaurs in them? But like, yeah, it's just it's super impactful, and it's that moment that you've kind of always been waiting for. And we never got to see Jurassic Park in operation. We got to see like a behind the scenes tour, and then it was cut short. We only got to see like half a day, not even. Like, it was just like a few hours in a seemingly operating park. But to see guests, to see people enjoying themselves, to see Main Street being flooded with people, you got restaurants, you got IMAX, you got just all kinds of insane stuff, everything you'd want from a theme park atmosphere or a city walk atmosphere. And like, it's amazing. And it's like, oh man, I wish we could explore some more of that stuff. And who knows, over time, maybe we'll get to see more of it. But yeah, that's one of my favorite moments.
I mean, maybe, I don't know if the live action show that they're talking about would maybe go into a little bit of that. It'd be kind of cool.
Know. It seems like it's going to be like Dominion maybe centric, but it would be nice to have something that focuses in on that. And I think actually, Camp Cretaceous could be that thing. So let's hope, a different medium, but it's okay.
I don't want to say animation is easy, because it's not, but I feel like putting the park in an animated style, that's not really what, like, it'd be fine. It just seeing the park in operation, I still just really want to see it in live action. It's like that's why Avengers, that whole franchise, is so popular, because sure, the comics are great, the cartoons are great, but we want to believe that it's real, and that's where I think the MCU is so successful. It's taking something so outlandish and so crazy and making it tangible. It's happening to Robert Downey Jr. It's happening to Chris Evans. And we'll probably never see that again with Jurassic Park or Jurassic World. That bums me out a little bit. So if animation's like the best way, like, fine, I guess. But yeah, I would love to see flashbacks, in the live action series.
I would love that if somehow, whether it's movie or live action series, like, to see them traverse different parts of this island, it would be awesome. But I'm okay with the animation live action split, because I'm such a huge like Star Wars fan, and I kind of go back and forth. Like, literally today I watched the Clone Wars, like a brand new episode, and they did things that like are pretty awesome. Like they go to planets that you're like, oh yeah, like that's awesome. We've been there in live action, slightly, but like to see it in not live action was just as cool for me. So I'm fine with that, as long as the representation of that island and the park looks and feels the same, instead of being like some cartoony rendition of it, because what Star Wars does, between different mediums is fairly seamless. Like there's good, identity to what those places are. So I think as long as they do that in this show, Camp Cretaceous, keep things somewhat realistic, and it seems like, at least from an atmosphere perspective, like the environments that they're going to be in, they look really realistic in what we've seen via that short trailer. And what else? Oh, just the image that was the poster image that was shared.
Yeah, the key art.
It looks very realistic. So outside of the characters, but yeah, I think they could do it. I really hope they do, and I'm interested to see what kind of different areas they explore. I just hope they don't stylistically change it too much, but I do want to see see what they could explore, because I don't expect them to stay. I think Jurassic is built on challenging the characters and traversing different places. All these movies are about getting from point A to point B. There's always something about travel, in these movies. So
Right.
I think, if that series does try to travel around that island, that would be pretty brilliant. So I think that's a great way to do it. And hopefully we can see some cool stuff.
Yeah, kind of. I mean, Terra Nova wasn't like a great show, but in every episode they had different like scenes, or not different. They had different sets, right? And so you were always seeing a new portion of the landscape, like the different, the outposts that they built, or whatever. I just watched Lost in Space on Netflix, and that was kind of the same way.
That show
I love that show. Like that show convinced me that a Jurassic World show can exist. Like I didn't think, even when I just saw like, oh, they're in talks, I'm like, but it's gonna look cheap, right? Like it's gonna look like a cheapened version of Jurassic. And I saw Lost in Space, and I was like, no, this can happen. Like the creatures in that show, what very few creatures there are in that show, look absolutely stunning.
There's a moment in season 2. Did you get through into season 2 yet?
Yeah, I watched the whole thing in like 2 days.
Yeah, there's like a moment in there where I was like, oh my god, this is like something like kind of scarier than Jurassic at times, with the creatures that they were utilizing in that sequence. I was like, oh my god, like this is pretty brutal. So
right.
You're right. Like they definitely could pull it off. So yeah, we'll see what they intend on doing. But yeah, exploration. That's part of the series, I think.
All right. So is that your 3, right?
My third one. Yeah. So where are you going for number 4?
Ooh, I've got a few. All right. One of the best sequences, again, this totally like shaped me as a child in wanting to become a CG artist. It was everything that Jurassic Park could be. It starts with awe. It ends in escape. It has fear. It has terror. And that is the Grant, Lex, and Tim running from the Gallimimus stampede. Like starting it, it's like, oh, look at these beautiful animals. Oh my gosh, they're flocking this way. Holy cow, run. We can't run as fast as these things. And then if that isn't terrifying enough, you think it's over, and the T-Rex just barrels through the tree line and like attacks these animals. So like you get dinosaurs chasing people, you get dinosaurs attacking dinosaurs, you get, like you don't, in 93, we didn't know if the T-Rex was going to like notice the humans and like want to go after them.
Yeah.
Like again, nowadays you go like, it's an old movie, you know what happens, but back then we didn't know what was going to happen. It was like, oh my gosh, like the T-Rex just burst through this scene. What's going to happen? And man, that sequence is everything. It's like a short within the movie.
Yeah, I love that moment. And yeah, I love the fact that like you still wonder like how did they get out of there? How did they, not get seen? What happened from there on out? And that moment's pretty awesome. Like just seeing like the dinosaurs kind of doing their thing and not really the humans aren't really interfering. The Gallimimus are doing their daily jog. Like they're running no matter what. And then the T-Rex, is doing what a T-Rex does. It doesn't want to be fed. It wants to hunt. And that's literally like that moment come to life. And it's so cool that like, he said that earlier on in the movie, when they're trying to tempt the Rex and it's just not working. But this is that moment come to life is that realization that, yes, this is exactly what it wants to be doing. So it wants to hunt. It wants to burst through those trees and scare everybody. And and do what the T-Rex does by just subtly like silently sneaking up on everybody and just
Right.
destroying. So I love that moment so much, and the fact that like that is a moment that has become so iconic because of the tree, the trees,
Right.
the space that they're in, like going to that part in Hawaii and just standing there, and the tree's like a different tree, like it's not the same log at this point, but it's like I guess the same spot. Don't quote me on that.
No, it's the same
You've been
log.
there,
It's just
right?
been like it's been so weathered down that it's like
Is it
nowhere near the size.
okay?
Um, they change its position all the time. Like
Hmm.
it's never in the same place. They like move the display, depending on just what's filming. Um, yeah, I mean, just as a kid, just coming to the realization that this was all created in a computer. And I know people love the puppetry and they love they love the animatronics, but
Hmm.
these were dinosaurs moving at full speed. And if you watch like the behind the scenes featurette, like Spielberg goes into like how ILM was like, well, wait, we can't have dinosaurs running with the camera moving. Like, no, like that's not how CG works. And I love when Spielberg is like, no, that's how it's gonna work. Like, that's what
Yeah,
we're gonna do.
can
And
figure
it's
it out.
like as someone who's in CG now, I look at that and I just
Yeah.
go, how did they do this 20 years ago? I don't. And it's live action. Now, if you want to do something like that, you would just CG the entire thing.
Yeah.
And like, kind
Yeah,
of
I mean,
similar to like the Owen Grady bicycle sequence, which is 100% CG except for him and the bike. And it doesn't look nearly as good.
well, even the Fallen Kingdom moment, when all the dinosaurs, they're all literally doing the same thing, running through the field and
Yeah, but
trying to escape
still
the
mostly
volcano.
that still is mostly like a locked off camera, right? Like there's a few gliding in or whatever, but like for the most part, like they stuck a camera onto the back of a golf cart and just like there was no tracking markers. They had to
Sure.
like they created this whole pipeline that we have in CG today. They were like creating it
Yeah.
on the sense of Spielberg being like, no, we're not going to lock off cameras. Like that's not going to happen in my movie.
So
Like
crazy.
we take it for granted now, but that was the first time we had ever seen anything like that.
Yeah, I don't know how. And I always watch those behind the scenes, documentaries or footage and stuff, and I see the old box computers. I'm like, how did they do
How?
any of this stuff? How did this come to life? I have no clue. I've watched
No.
all these like different documentaries. Even like I watched like the Pixar story or something the other day, just talking about how they made those movies and how Jurassic
Right.
Park was kind of an influence to that and stuff. And it's just crazy to see how they make this stuff in a day and age where like now we could just kind of hit, do a few things and just like there it is. It looks beautiful. Obviously I'm simplifying it, but like
Sure.
it's,
Yeah. Yeah.
it's just crazy. So that's one of those like feats that you just don't know how they did it.
No. And for being as old as that movie is, I mean, you're talking about a scene that was probably staged out in 1991 or 1992. Like, I have no clue. Even like we're 26, 7 years removed, and it's like, how did you accomplish this in
Yeah.
those days? Like, I can't even fathom it. So
Isn't there like a lot of footage of them like running around the lots and stuff like that, capturing audio of them like running and jumping over things? I think I remember like a lot of footage like that.
I mean, maybe, but like just to create a scene like that now would involve so much. Like, if you watch the behind the scenes, they they add like a digital graph onto the
Mhm.
floor, like onto the ground, which allows them to like put the animals in and like make sure that the animals are moving at the right
Yeah.
like speed and at the
Uh-huh.
right like they're hitting and not sliding on the ground. Like the only way in my mind I can think of even doing that shot today is that you would actually lay out a grid with rope. You would track that, I guess, and then like you would have to like have artists like painstakingly paint that out. And they didn't do
Oh
that in those
god.
days.
All right, so that was your fourth
That's
one.
my four.
All right, so what am I gonna go with here? I'm gonna stick with the same film, and so we're talking Jurassic Park here. And I kind of alluded to it earlier when I've been talking about the music a lot recently, about how
Right.
the music is a big deal when it comes to how impactful I think these moments are. But this moment is completely opposite. Now, I don't think this is something that truly defines the moment, but the T-Rex breakout, like there's no sound, no musical score or anything else underneath that. It's just completely silent, and you hear the rain dripping. It sets the tone, sets the atmosphere. It's so brilliant. I love that entire sequence. I don't think you can deny that. I mean, it's, you
No,
mentioned
it's
the
amazing.
Brachiosaurus scene before, and I think the T-Rex breakout is like that other scene that you're just like, oh my god, like this is like, how did they do that? I guess we talked about it with the Gallimimus too, but like, how did they do that? It looks so good, even still today. Like, there's still so much about that looks brilliant. I love the tension, the character moments with the different cars and stuff like that, the kids and Gennaro and Grant and Malcolm, going back and forth with their, kind of comedic takes and stuff like that. And then just the tension of them getting out of the vehicles and the T-Rex breaking down the bathroom and the fence, and just how iconic the sound design is in that sequence. Like, everything about it is so iconic. Like, the roars are just, you literally can't get those out of your head. The way that thing overturns the explorers, like chews on the tire. Like, there's so much about that sequence that is just so iconic. And it's beautiful. It's one of the best things out of any of these movies, or any movie in general. Like, it's just the best.
It's that scene is every time I get any kind of new equipment, like that's the part of the movie I boot up to go,
Yeah.
okay, does this look / sound great on my new equipment, right? Because it's like it's dark, but the rain is like in complete, like it's like in 7.1 surround. So like when you're sitting in your, if you have like a home theater, if you're sitting there, you're in the world. The rain is around you, and we don't really have rain too much in the rest of the series. I mean, the Lost World has it, but like the rest of the series is pretty much like during the day, nice and sunny, which makes no sense for Costa Rica, but fine. I shouldn't say that. Like, I say that like I've been there.
Well, we also
like,
have rain in Jurassic Park 3 towards the end, and then we have the rain in Fallen Kingdom.
Oh,
I think
yeah.
there's some rain. Is there some rain in Fallen Kingdom? I don't know. I don't remember.
I don't remember.
Maybe.
But just it's like, it sounds great, and then when the T-Rex comes out, it echoes around the room, and like it's the first time that we're seeing. I shouldn't say it's the first time we're seeing scale, right? Because you see scale right away with the Brachiosaur.
But
that
you haven't really been terrified, by that scale.
You haven't been terrified of scale, and I think that's what what this does, right?
Yeah.
It's like, okay, fine, we have raptors that are about as big as man. We've got a Brachiosaur that's massive, but it's a friendly dinosaur. But like all of a sudden, the T-Rex is like, oh, it's dangerous and it's big. Like, this is what this movie is gonna be. Like, I cannot wait to finish it up.
And the way that they blend everything from the CG to the animatronic and the real vehicles, the CG aspects of the vehicles, like, and the acting from the kids, like Lex and Tim in that moment are just brilliant. The glass shattering over them and stuff. Like, it's just, you can't beat all of that. And anytime it rains, like, you think of like, you kind of like hear that moment in the back of your head. You're like, oh, this is a perfect moment, like, to watch Jurassic Park. You're like, anytime it's storming, you're like, all right, this is perfect. You hear like that moment, and you also like pretend to be like Nedry in a Jeep, like going through the jungle, getting lost out there. Like, it's super iconic. And the way that there is no music, that gives you all this time to not necessarily think about a score, to have to, hear and hear how it's progressing. You just get to feel the tension, and it makes it more, I guess it just gives it more tension due to the fact that there's no score. So I love that moment so
I'd
much.
like to know, like, who approached that, right? Because in every movie, when you want to be scared, right, you amp up the music. And I want to know who decided. Was it Williams or Spielberg who was like, this scene, let the people be terrified without any cues to make them be terrified,
Yeah, I'm sure it's been mentioned somewhere. I don't remember specifically, but I know John Williams is pretty good about that usually.
Sure.
So I feel like he's pretty much a good guy when it comes to finding those moments, and not to say that, like, Michael Giacchino isn't or anything like that, or Don Davis wasn't, but like, I don't know, film today is just so different that we don't necessarily take all that time to factor in on just what is happening on screen. I really do wish that would happen more. I mean, it does happen in these newer movies, but not to the extent that the Jurassic Park did, setting up that T-Rex without any kind of music for a while. Like even the
Right.
the moment when they first approach the paddock, and you're just hearing what it's like out in the nice daytime, and then approaching it during nighttime, and there's no music again, and it's awesome. Like everything about that sequence, the scale, how scary the thing is, and the flare. Like there's so many iconic moments from that scene, and it's one of the unbeatable moments, I think, in this franchise. So
it really is. I'm glad you brought it up, because like I feel like how do you not say that sequence? And like it only didn't make it because I just feel like that's a given. But like, how do you not talk about it?
I know. That's why I was kind of like, I was writing up my list, trying to think of things that are a little bit different. But I can't help it, man. I can't help it. Between like Malcolm's journey.
Scene.
Malcolm's journey is one that I always bring up as one of my favorite moments, and this breakout scene is obviously top on almost anybody's list out there. So
that's how I felt about the Brachiosaur scene. Like when I put it on my list, I was like, really? Like this one is so cliche, but like it's cliche for a reason, and it's because they're fantastic sequences.
Yeah, you can't deny it. It's beautiful, it's brilliant, and I really want to go boot up all my TV and my sound system and listen to it right now. Put that sequence on. I want to watch it right now. Yeah,
it's so good.
So let's move on to our last ones. So what's your last pick here for our top 5?
All right, so I got some honorable mentions. I was gonna talk about Giacchino's music. I was gonna talk about when like the T-Rex like marks its scent on the car in the book, in the Lost World book. I'm actually gonna go with my official final one. Mm-hmm. I'm going to go with something that was, in my opinion, I hate to say this because in my opinion, Jurassic Park is a perfect movie. Like it's amazing. It's my number one to anything and everything. But I think they really miscommunicated that movie, how and for how long and when the dinosaurs were breeding, like naturally. Mm-hmm. And the book does it so much better.
Oh, yeah.
And so if you haven't read the book out there, for one, shame on you. You can get the whole thing unabridged on Audible. If you sign up, and we're not sponsored by them, you can get it for free. But
I think I have them both on Audible, by the way.
Yeah, they're fantastic. But the moment that the visitors and the employees are starting to realize that the dinosaurs are breeding is, so what, they're at the 6th stegosaur, right? And
it's been a while.
They're somewhere like out in the park, and they're talking about like the dinosaurs breeding and like something, and because there's like raptors on a garbage ship or something. Mm-hmm. And they realize that because the whole thing is the dinosaurs can't breed. The numbers never come back, saying that there's more. They can't be loose on the island. There can't be naturally breeding ones. And someone's like, well, like, let's say there's supposed to be like 10 raptors, right? They're like, well, put in like 11 and see what the computer comes back with. And the computer, they got their little computer screen in the car, and it's like, okay, fine, whatever. We'll put in 11 and we'll see if there's 11 raptors. And they put in 11 and it spits out 11 raptors. Uh-huh. He's like, that's not right. This can't be right. And they put in like 12. Computer processes, and there's 12 raptors. And then he's like, well, put in like 20. And it spits out 20 raptors. And the whole point of like chaos, and yes, in the movies and in the book, it's very chaotic, that it just happened to be the week that a storm was rolling in, that the zoo was like half staffed or like only minimally staffed or whatever. But like, this is the point in the book where like Ian Malcolm gets his like, aha, gotcha moment. Yeah. And it's that they realize that the only reason that the computer was spitting out the appropriate number of dinosaurs was because they had programmed the computer to only search for how many dinosaurs they had created in the lab.
Yeah.
And this is the part of the book where you realize because they were only searching parameters of what they had created, they were always getting favorable results when it came to dinosaur population, and not the frantic realization that, oh my God, these animals are breeding on their own. And then you get the cool scene where, or you get the cool thing where they go, well, wait, how are they breeding on their own? This is when frog DNA is kind of brought into the story. And it's not every dinosaur. Like, the movie makes it out to be that like every dinosaur has frog DNA, which is, I guess in the movie is probably true, but in the book that's not true. In the book, it's only certain ones that are breeding in the wild, and it just happens to be the ones that they used frog DNA, and the raptors just happen to be like one of the like 5 or 6 that are breeding. I think Dilophosaurus was like another one, because you go through that whole thing in the book where like you see the Dilophosaur like mating ritual dance thing, but
it doesn't really work in film.
Doesn't really work in film. But that scene is so great, and the scene itself would not work in film because it's so slow, and it's so like oh, punch these buttons into the computer, and like who wants to like really sit and watch that? But in the book it's so good because it goes on for a few pages, and it's just like it's this slow realization as the reader that like, oh my gosh, like this is the hole in the system, you know? I wish they would have been able to pull that off a little bit more in the movie, but it's so much more rewarding in the book when you realize, and when Ian gets his like, I gotcha moment, like this is the problem. This is the thing that's going to crumble this entire thing, is that now you have no idea how many are out there. You have no idea how to find them. You're screwed. Like they weren't even to like animals breaking out at this point. By this point, the park is already closed. The park is not even opening, and no animals have broken out.
Yeah.
You know, it's so good. It's one of my all-time favorite Jurassic Park things.
You know, I honestly almost put this on my list too, because when you're thinking about the book, and I was trying to think of, like I said, all mediums and stuff, and I ended up just going to 2 different mediums. But I wanted to consider something, and I'm like, what can I bring from the book? And that was one of those moments that I thought, like, this is something that's so iconic when you get to see that readout, you know, in the book.
Yes,
and it's just like the way, like, you have to read this all over and over again, like, and it's super iconic, and it's something visually that you can't forget. And it changes that story a lot too, you know, like that's like an impactful moment where, oh my God, this is not the way we thought it was. Things are totally different now.
This is the moment it goes from being a magical park to being, oh no, what have we done? You know,
we're wrong.
yeah, totally. I love that sequence in the book, and like I said, that sequence is before anything goes wrong, like physically, you know. I love it. So I think there's not really much more to say, but
no, and you're right. In the movie, there's not a whole lot. They have like a little conversation with Dr. Wu and stuff like that, and then, you know, later on, you're just like finding dinosaur eggs in the wild, and you don't really know what's going on per se. Like, what is the full story here? But
it's like the way it plays in the movie, especially as like a 7-year-old, it's like, oh, the raptors got out and then instantly laid some eggs. But that's not what's happening.
No.
What's happening in the movie is that there are raptors already out, and like they never really even touch on it, because the raptors we see later in the movie are the ones that broke out of the pen. And so it's just super, super weird. They touch on the fact that the dinosaurs are breeding, but they're little raptor tracks running away. So this entire movie, there's been raptors out, and they don't go as far to say there's been raptors out this whole time. Like,
well, the way I see it is like they traversed upon a raptor paddock or something like that. So maybe there's a, you know, in the movie, you could either say like
there's not another raptor paddock in the movie. It's just the holding pen.
I know. In the beginning, you can say like, yeah, they're taking this dinosaur from Sorna, I guess, and putting it here, or you could say,
sure,
well, we moved it from paddock A to paddock B, you know, or something like that. So
yeah, but Muldoon explains that there's only 3 raptors left on the island. Like, so the logic and the whole logic in the movie of they just happen to come across these clutches of eggs. It's like, okay, there had to be one that escaped.
Well, here's the thing. Maybe so. What happens is, take this as full canon, guys. This is legit. Is for the podcast listeners, Aaron just shaking his head. No, don't do that. So these 3 raptors plus more or whatever were in this pen, and they realized, well, we can't do this. We can't keep them all out here. They're going to just kill each other. So let's move them to this smaller pen. And they didn't realize that there were eggs out there, maybe. So they moved these raptors to the small pen, but left the eggs, I guess.
One had to escape. Oh, you're saying they're inside.
So somehow, because it's near the T-Rex paddock, maybe like the T-Rex kind of, this is getting too out of, knocked down some fences, and Grant and Lex and Tim kind of traversed their way in between the trees and spotted these eggs that were maybe in between the trees, and the park workers never noticed them, so they never took them to the hatchery or anything. So, they moved the other 3 raptors to the paddock, a more controlled paddock where they can literally watch them instead of a wide open paddock out in the wilderness.
Because Muldoon says we bred 6 originally, but this one came in and killed all but 2 of the others. So there's 3 now.
Yeah.
So they know what happened to 3 of the 6 raptors. 3 of the 6 raptors were killed.
Yeah.
Where did this clutch of eggs come from that's out in either some external paddock or out in the wild, right?
Well, in my eyes, it's from those 3 raptors. One of those 3 raptors that are now in the small raptor paddock. You know what I mean?
Yeah, but one of the 3 raptors that were in the small raptor paddock are in that paddock. They're in the holding pen. They're not in a paddock. They're in a holding pen.
In the raptor pen. Yeah.
Yeah, but where are the eggs? The eggs are off on the island somewhere.
So at one point before the movie started, they moved 2 raptors into the pen. And then the movie starts and they move the other raptor into the pen. Are
you suggesting that the raptor being moved in the very beginning of the movie is not from Sorna, but the raptor paddock has been so disheveled from this queen coming in that they now have to move the 3 remaining raptors from the paddock into a holding pen so they can repair a paddock?
I mean, repairing never crossed my mind, but that's a good aspect. I like that. They need to repair it.
That's the logical way this has to work.
We're figuring it out. Yeah.
The raptor in the very beginning of the movie cannot. Well, one, it's not coming from Sorna because Sorna doesn't exist at this point in the logic of storytelling, right? So Sorna doesn't exist in the writer's room at this point. So that raptor has to be coming from either a laboratory on Nublar, or it has to be coming from a paddock on the island that was destroyed from these raptors killing each other, basically.
Sure.
And in that paddock, there were eggs.
Exactly.
That no one found.
Nobody noticed them because they're in between a tree. Yeah. So that's what I'm saying. Look, you play Jurassic World Evolution. How often are those raptors breaking down the fences? Pretty constantly. So if they need to upgrade the fences, they need to change things out. They move the raptors into a place where they can look at them and spot them. I don't know why you put 3 raptors that are probably going to kill each other into one small pen, but they did it anyway. But they left the eggs out there. They didn't realize the eggs were out there, and therefore Grant, Lex, and Tim come across the eggs and realize,
this is a new realization for me on this movie. I have to go talk to someone about this.
Well, we're doing it right here.
No. You know who I have to go to talk to about this.
Go have fun. Okay.
I don't know if he's got a good explanation for this, but I'm talking about Jack Ewens, Jack and I, we like to butt heads a little bit on like logic stuff, and he's one of my favorite people because he comes up with ideas that I never thought of, and every time he brings them up, I go, it could happen that way.
I guess.
I don't know, but yeah. So the way Jack Ewens sees a lot of things is really different, and it's great, and it's great to have conversations about this. But in my talks with him, we've never talked about where this clutch of eggs came from, and I cannot wait to talk to him about this.
We probably have talked. I'm sure we probably have mentioned it before, but yeah, it's just this thread is just out of control to try to keep up with. So, Yeah, so that's our theory on, or my theory, I guess, on why the raptors are breeding in the wild, and we don't really know why. But there you go. That's adding on to
Oh
your
my goodness, I'm
fifth
so
pick.
excited.
All right. Um, all right. So I guess we're down to my last pick then, if as long as you're all good with that one.
Sure, sure.
um, all right. All right. So my last pick is kind of, I'm gonna split it into like two picks, kind of. I started to write down two from Jurassic World Live Tour. Now I know I saved it kind of for the end just in case um, people are still thinking about spoilers at this point. I don't really know. We don't really know what the case is with the show
Uh,
currently, but
yeah. Hey, this is the last one.
yeah.
If you don't want Jurassic World Live Tour, duck out now. There's nothing more to this conversation after this. So,
It's gonna
um,
be real lame and boring after this. We have nothing else to add,
yeah, exactly. So yeah,
but
just head out now if you don't want spoilers for that live tour.
no, but Jurassic World Live Tour, spoilers ahead here. It features two specific moments that I wanted to talk about.
Sure.
And the first one, which I feel like, anytime I've seen this thing three times already, and every time I see it, these two moments stand out to me. And the first one is the moment, it's kind of like, I think it's in the second act. It's when the stegosaurus kind of trots out onto the stage. They think like, oh my god, is the T-Rex coming, is the T-Rex coming? And no, it's like it's a stegosaurus and it's baby, and they both come out, and you realize like, oh my god, these colors are brilliant. Like, what's going on? It's just the moonlight shining on it. What's happening here? And then via the conversation with the characters, there's a bunch of characters, human characters, that are down there as well, and they kind of make some remarks about different programs that are happening on the island from like Mizrani and Dr. Blue and stuff like that. And we come to find out that uh, Mizrani, I guess, wanted a nighttime parade down the center of Main Street. Um, and they decided they wanted to utilize like this glow in the dark kind of, luminescent quality to these dinosaurs, which we've kind of known about via like, the stuff that was included in the Indominus. There's all these like this question about like what's in the Indominus and the hybrid aspects of that dinosaur. And then moving to the Stegosaurus, we learned that like they wanted this to be a bioluminescent dinosaur to glow for a nighttime parade, and that just like it's kind of mind blowing. And that's what we talked about before. And this live tour does this in spades, is like gives us new places to go, new things to do, new things to learn about, and to talk about. And I think this moment with the Stegosaurus is it's impressive to learn about this new detail, but it's also beautiful because you have that moment, but you also have another moment happening on the side of the stage with two characters that are like, kind of, you don't know if they're in love or not, or what's happening there, if they like each other. And it's like a nice, beautiful, reflective moment, I think. And it's just so awesome. It's just so cool to learn those details and to see these characters interact. I personally love that. What did you think of that moment?
I like it. When I first saw it and they were like, "Oh, bioluminescent dinosaurs or stegosaurs," I was like, "Yeah, but we haven't seen that before."
Mm-hmm.
And like, because we've seen stegosaur in spades up to this point now, right? And we've always seen them for the most part in the daytime. Um, it was something that as soon as they did it, I was like, I don't like it. But they give the explanation, and I'm like, okay, I'm cool with that. Like, it makes sense, right? You keep messing with these genetic code things.
Yeah.
I almost would have, I think I would have preferred something like, in this, if they would have said something like in the science, originally we had killed these because we didn't understand what it was for, but like we realized through like the cloning that these stegosaurs naturally had this bioluminescence. Like, I think I'd have preferred something a little more written like that. But
Mm-hmm.
the sheer concept of these big animals with like glowing blades on its back is kind of cool. The scene was really beautiful in the actual show. So again, it wasn't anything that like I was like, I didn't hate it, I didn't love it. I just was like, this is interesting, this is cool, I'm trying to figure out how I feel about it. And because here's the thing, if a compy
Uh-huh.
would have been, if they would have shown a compy with this, I'd have been like, yeah, sure, like a small little lizard, like that makes
Uh-huh.
sense. But because it's like this behemoth of a stegosaur, I'm just like, whoa. We gotta we gotta calm this sci-fi down. And
Okay.
there's no reason not to go along with it other than I'm an
Uh-huh.
old man who is curmudgeonly not wanting to move on. But
Sure.
yeah, I mean when you think about the Indominus Rex and it can
Yeah.
camouflage like clear, like
Yeah.
this was totally a natural progression that I'm okay to accept. I'd like to see it in a film. I don't know if I'd like to see it on something as massive as a stegosaur, but I wouldn't mind seeing a bioluminescent, like maybe the crest on a Parasaurolophus or something, like glowing in the dark or whatever. I think that'd be really cool.
Sure.
Um, Again, it's not anything I'm against. It's not anything I was like. It was I don't know. You'd have to like go back to my original reaction to it, I guess, on that spoiler cast because like I've had so much time now removed from it that I'm just like,
Uh-huh.
how did I feel about that? It's cool, man. Like I have nothing again. I have nothing against it. I have nothing like crazy for it. It is what it is, and I enjoy it. I guess is what I'm trying to say.
It really doesn't sound like it.
It doesn't sound like I'm enjoying it, but I do enjoy it.
But your lack of enjoyment doesn't impede my enjoyment.
No,
I
no,
just
no, and
I love that so much. I think it's beautiful, and it doesn't bother me at all because of the Indominus Rex. Because maybe if this was the first one, I would have been like, oh, weird, what's going on? But the way that the Indominus Rex kind of introduces it, and I'm trying to I forget what uh the kind of different oh man, what were the different attributes?
what do you
Let's
mean
see here.
attributes?
Oh, so it was like a cuttlefish, tree frogs, like a pit viper snake, apparently.
Oh, sure, sure, sure.
All
Yeah,
these
yeah,
different things that were utilized. Like a cuttlefish, I think was like maybe the catalyst for the camouflage. I think.
yeah. Because
Um,
cuttlefish are they can like quickly camouflage. Like you can't even see them.
yeah,
It's like
yeah.
crazy. Yeah.
So
Um.
that's what made me like okay with this because like the cuttlefish gene was introduced into that, and the camouflage works, subtly in that movie. It's not like too overt or anything. But it's not like the dinosaur literally disappears or anything. But I think it's utilized well, and it connects the dots. Like it works. It doesn't sound like anything too outlandish because Simon Masrani was kind of like a dreamer as far as what he
Yeah.
wanted to see, and I
And I
think
think
it kind
that's
of
why I was
checks
able
out.
to accept it
Hmm.
is because they were saying like this was like a prototype thing,
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah, and I
Um,
don't. They didn't go forward with it. So who knows? This could be the only one. But I like to think that there's maybe more out there, other dinosaurs, even. Who knows?
right.
And imagine that, like that dinosaur was, and the baby or whatever were taken in Fallen Kingdom, and uh, you know, we see them in the next movie. I know this will never happen, but like just like
No.
having that same moment, which would be unexplained, I guess, because there wouldn't be a character there to be like, well, Simon Masrani back in the day made this for a parade. But that would be a pretty beautiful moment to see, like traversing through the moonlight or something. That would be really cool to see, but I know it probably will never happen.
No, it probably won't happen. I wouldn't mind it. I think it's maybe a little bit more natural on something like a Dilophosaurus, but
Uh huh.
again, like whatever, like the explanation is fantastic enough to make me go, "Oh, okay. Like cool. Like that's where we're at and that's fine." They didn't like the way they handled it like didn't like take away anything from like my childhood. All it does
Hmm.
is really just add something moving forward if Trevorrow ever wanted to like
Yeah.
pick it up, you know. Um,
Yeah.
the way they handled it, I thought was really really good in the live show.
Hmm. And then the other moment that I wanted to, the final moment was, you know what? Let me throw one more in there. In terms of, we don't really have to talk about it all that much, but in terms of world building and stuff like that, there was an adventure zone, and that was one of those things that was like, oh
Yeah,
my god, they have like a treetop adventure course kind of thing. It was just cool to see this world expanded. Maybe that's something we'll see in Camp Cretaceous, but like
yeah.
just any kind of way to expand the world was pretty cool to me. And then the last one was the final moment of the show with the Rex, and
Oh,
I just can't like.
it's
It's just
just
a moment that like blows my mind every time it's happening, and I'm sitting there watching it, my jaw is dropped, and I'm like, oh my god, I want to take all the pictures, all the videos, I want to do all the things, but like also capture this with my brain and just like remember this
right,
moment, but like
right.
it's just out of control that a new place. We're at a gas station on Isla Nublar, which is really cool to have a gas station for, we had a garage that we talked
Gotta
about,
refuel those trucks somewhere.
we got a gas station now that these InGen workers are just like, or mercenaries are like, let's just light them up and shoot flames out of these gas pumps at the T-Rex to try to stop it from going across the rest of the stage to the other characters. And it's just this insane moment, unlike anything else I think we've seen in the movies, obviously. We've never gotten anything that wild, right?
Is this the first time we see them fight animals with fire? Because I feel like that's a really obvious thing to do, and we've never seen it in a Jurassic movie.
I don't know. Is there...
No.
I can't really think of anything. No, we're wrong. Jurassic Park 3. The gas, I guess, from the boat.
No. But I'm talking like
gun?
how like when you see like survivalist movies, right? And they light like a T-shirt on a stick on fire and like wave it at the animal. Yeah, get away.
Sure.
I'm thinking like that. No, I don't really consider they fought the Spinosaurus with fire. Like, I guess they created a barrier, but it wasn't like they were fighting with fire. And
sure.
In this live tour, they are fighting with fire.
It's like 20-foot like streaks of fire, like they're like Ghostbusters on either side of the stage, crossing the streams like with their proton packs, just trying to stop this T-Rex from crossing this. It's insane. Just the fire is just, you can feel the heat, and there's a giant real life sized T-Rex animatronic on stage roaring and trying to back up and not knowing what to do, and then it's causing sparks and explosions behind you, and then all of a sudden there's just fire. It's like unlike anything you've seen from anything Jurassic. It's just so crazy, and oh man, I love it, and I hope maybe I can get to see it again sometime. I don't know.
I hope so too. I don't want to go into it. It's just crazy what's going on in this world right now.
Sure.
But yeah, that show is amazing. It definitely. I hope that we just get through this point in time just as quickly as possible to where these shows can ramp back up, because it's a crime not to bring that show back out. And it's a crime not to it's a crime to like have a ticket and then like have that taken away from you. Yeah. Mm-hmm. It's an absolutely phenomenal show. So anybody who gets a chance to see it once this whole debacle is over, please go see it.
And I mean, I'm hoping, we've seen a lot of good marketing materials from them recently where like there's actual legit real footage of this show, almost like a captured performance. So I don't know if that's the case, if they do have anything like that, but that would be beautiful if this did have to run its course. To see something like that on film would be beautiful, but I don't take that.
Did we not ask them about like a Fathom event at some point? And they kind of basically said, they said like, no, like we want you to see this, but that's definitely something you say, right? When you're trying to get tickets. I can easily see if they eventually did like Jurassic World Live Tour 2 and like change the story, I could easily see this one coming as a Fathom event for anybody that didn't get to see the first run.
And I mean, I'm not going to say that these are comparable, but like, Broadway shows do this all the time. And Disney just bought the rights for Hamilton, and they're going to air. When I heard the news, I was like, oh, they're making a movie for Hamilton. But no, they're not making a movie. They're literally just taking the footage they shot from the stage production and releasing it as a Disney product. Sure. So that's exactly what I would hope that they did here. And I think if you look at some of the behind the scenes stuff that they've released, there is some really good stuff that was not shot on like a black box like theater. It's like legit real footage that I'm like, oh, maybe they did shoot something, but don't take my word there. But that's just something I hope everybody gets the chance to see. Sure. If you didn't, sorry I spoiled it for you. We gave you warning, so
they had their warning.
Yep. But I guess that wraps up our lists there. So that was longer than I expected. But when it comes to the two of us, what do you expect? I guess
we're at 2 hours. I mean,
no, we're only hour and a half. We're good.
Oh, all right. Well, hour and a half. I can't believe people listen to us for an hour and a half.
people do. So, and I
know.
guess they enjoy it. So we got to not complain about it. But yeah, man, I feel inspired to go watch these things, to go enjoy these moments, and oh man, I gotta like fire up the DVD player and just watch some of this stuff, because all of these moments are incredible, and I want to revisit the book, just to hear those moments as well that you described.
If anybody out there hasn't read the books, like for real, do yourself a favor and at least go download the audio.
Yeah.
From Audible. The unabridged versions are absolutely fantastic.
Yeah,
they're
there's a few
acted,
versions out there. Yeah, so just keep your eyes peeled for which ones you're buying.
Yeah, definitely, but definitely get the unabridged, because the unabridged feels more like the book, and like I think the abridged versions kind of feel like the movie. And if you're gonna go into the book, why not get that full experience, and
Yeah.
get every little detail that you possibly can, and see where Jurassic World is really pulling its source material from, because Jurassic World is straight up pulling from the Crichton books. So you might as well get the source material as pure as possible.
Yeah, and there's still a lot of stuff out there that, hey, they could even pull from today. So I'm interested to see, revisiting these books nowadays after Fallen Kingdom. It's been a while since I've read them. I forget when the last time. I think I did the audiobooks last. But yeah, it's about time to revisit them, I think.
I know the last time I read them was before Iron Man 3. That's all I can really remember. Only because I was reading it while like working on that movie, so like I kind of remember it that way. But I remember listening to the audiobooks a few times after that. So
yeah,
I prefer audio at this point. But that's just me.
Awesome. Well, thank you for joining me. Do you want to take us out with anywhere people can find you or follow you or anything like that?
You can find me on Twitter at Aaron D. Beyer, talking Jurassic Park there. You can find me on IMDb just by searching my name and checking out my projects that I've been working on. Trying to think the last, with how crazy things have been going, I don't even want to say the last thing I worked on, because I don't know if it came out. Who knows at this point?
Where, who knows? But yeah. But cool, for anybody watching the video stream, make sure to follow us on JurassicParkPodcast.com to keep up with all of our work, our episodes, our show notes are there, videos, articles, whatever we got going on over there. Follow us at Jurassic Park Pod. I am at Brad Jost on Twitter, Instagram, Jurassic Park Podcast. Make sure to join our Facebook group. There's two questions Facebook on there.
Group.
Yeah.
Answer the questions. There's questions about who is on the podcast.
This group, man.
The names are here. Here's the answers. So just answer those questions. We'll let you in. We're having a good time over there.
Yeah. Too many people do not answer the questions, and we reject them. So answer the questions. But yeah, we have a good time in there. And like I said, follow us all over the place. Download the podcast. I know sometimes our YouTube listeners stick to YouTube, don't necessarily download the show. But Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, and we are on Spotify as well. So you can listen anywhere you want. But yeah, thank you everybody for listening, for watching wherever you are. And
we're sorry for those watching.
Like we said, this is an experiment. We don't know how this went. We'll see after this. But thank you for sticking around and going through our top fives. If anybody out there has top fives that they want to let us know about, shoot us an email, JurassicParkPod@gmail.com, or comment below in the video over on YouTube. Let us know, and we'll start to chat with you and see what's going on. But thank you so much for joining me today, Aaron. And what do you say we head out of here?
All right, let's do it.
All right, peace out, everybody.
See you.